Hi, welcome to the channel. Today's video we're going to do a look at what I fit into an average backpack when I'm doing a free season camp. So the backpack in question is the OEX Vallo 5060, so a proper budget sleeping bag with a capacity between 50 and 60 litres, and the rest of the gear is kind of average stuff that you might have if you're out wild camping, albeit the tent is slightly bigger than you would normally take as a proper two-person tent. So all the gear laid out of here has come out of this backpack, and all the gear laid out here will go back into this backpack. So I'm just going to take you through all the items that I take with me and their use on the camp, and then show you how it all packs away and fits in to what is a fairly modest backpack that I managed to pick up on Facebook for £25. So we'll get started as I would normally do after a wild camp, by sort of packing up all the loose bits and pieces into several little dry bags ready to go into the backpack. So this is a free season setup, so that's why there is quite a lot of sort of warm clothes and bits and pieces here. So we'll start by just looking at the kind of the assorted mess that when you're out wild camping ends up all across your tent. Somehow I always seem to make a complete mess when I'm in the tent, and when you wake up the next morning and you're ready to pack down and go, you've got to sort of tidy it all away and make sure it's all where it needs to be. So what I do is I've got a X-Bed dry bag that I put all my stuff in that I need on the average camp, kind of the essentials and stuff, and I keep that in the dry bag then when I'm home, so I know that I can just grab that bag, put it into the backpack, and I'm good for most of the gear I need. So into this normally goes a toilet set, so hand sanitizer, a lightweight trowel, cloths, tissues, all that kind of stuff. Really essential if you're out in the hills for a couple of days. Then there's some toiletries, so a small toothbrush, toothpaste, mouthwash and deodorant. What else we got? Waterproof lighter, painkillers, some earplugs for if it's noisy, and even some sun cream, which you wouldn't need on a free season camp, but just happens to be left over in this bag. Then we've got a little first aid kit, so bits and pieces in there, including a tick remover, which is a really vital piece of kit. My little black diamond hanging lamp, which I think is really nice to have in the tent. Another lighter, because you can never have too many lighters if you're out and about. A decent sized battery pack, so I wouldn't always take one this big, but if I was taking loads of gadgets for a couple of days, I'd take one this size because it can charge up quite a lot. Anything else dropped on the floor? Yeah, a little USB charging cable. And my black diamond head torch. So that all goes into the red dry bag, can be folded up and then put to one side, ready to go into the backpack. So I've also got my OEX ultralight down jacket for an extra layer of warmth. It's really small, packs down light, only weighs 215 grams, that down jacket. So it goes with me on most camps, almost all year round as an emergency layer. In here, I've got a RAB waterproof downpour jacket, like they're budget waterproof. Again, I always used to have another waterproof layer. I've got my Nordisk Moss down slippers, really warm in the tent, and they've got a nice sort of plasticky bottom, so you can wear them outside the tent as well in short periods, not worry about getting your feet wet. Then I've got my water filter, which I'll pack on top. Hat, gloves, a big microfiber towel, just in case anything's got wet or you want to dry the tent down before you leave. Sorry, actually no, that's actually my thermal leggings, thermal top and a spare pair of socks. That's my microfiber towel in case you want to dry things down. And I've got tent pegs. I've got my Cedar Summit silk sleeping bag liner, got that on £5 on Facebook. And then here, if it was chucking down with rain outside the tent, I carry two big dry bags. One for the bottom of the bag section, which I put my sleeping stuff in normally, and then the other one for the top of the bag section where you chuck everything else in. So you've got stuff in dry bags that then go into dry bags that go into the bag, and then the bag has a waterproof cover as well. So yeah, just paranoid if it's really, really raining heavy and you want to keep your gear dry. Less important if you're going for one overnight, because as long as you get it to camp dry, it doesn't matter if you get wet going back to the car, because you can go home and dry it out. But if you're on a through hike, on a multi-day hike, this kind of extra dry bag's a little bit of extra weight, but I think it's crucial to keep your stuff dry. So that's what I'd normally do inside the tent. I'd just organise all this stuff, make sure it's all in the dry bags ready to go, put that to one side, and then you focus on packing down your sleeping gear. So sleeping gear I've got with me today, again, because it's free season, I've got my Unigear Campy Trail -1 sleeping bag. Although it says -1, cover rating is actually 1 degrees, but it's a really nice thick bag. It's got zips on either side as well, and they're double zips, so you can zip from top or bottom. Really nice, warm, spacious bag. So it's mummy shaped, but you can see it's not a tiny one. You've got really big width at the top and good width at the legs. So lovely, warm sleeping bag, perfect for free season conditions, I think. It packs down reasonably small, isn't ridiculously heavy either. Combine that with my Nemo Philo pillow, so a slightly heavier, slightly bigger pillow than you need to take on a overnight camp. But I find it extremely comfy. When I was researching pillows, people said, yeah, a little bit heavier, a little bit expensive than some of the pillows, but absolutely they recommended it as being totally worth the extra weight and cost, because it is really, really comfy, and I would concur with that. I think it's a really comfy pillow. And then underneath that, we've got my Unigear Campy P3 sleep mat. This is just a regular wide model. I don't think they do a narrow model. It's just regular wide. I don't know why they call it the wide version, because there is no narrow version. Really big, spacious, comfy mat, nice and thick. The R rating is only 2, so for free season camping, as long as it's not too cold, you'll be absolutely fine with that R rating. Although obviously it all depends on your personal comfort rating in terms of how warm and cold you tend to sleep. But if you were concerned, there's space on top of this bag. You could pack like a multi-mat with a foil bit of insulation just to give it a bit of extra warmth rating. But no, you can see it's a really big pad when it's unfolded, along with a really decent sized sleeping bag. So this is quite a comfortable setup, especially when combined with the OEX Cougar 2 EV, which is a proper 2-person tent. So this is actually kind of overkill really in terms of the gear that's here. You could certainly go lighter and smaller than this, but this is just a demonstration of what you can get into a budget backpack. So that's why we're going for the sort of stuff that's fairly bulky, because if you're at the budget end while camping, your stuff is likely to be a bit bulkier, a bit heavier than you would if you were going for really expensive gear. So this is just to show that even with that in mind, you can still put it into a budget backpack absolutely fine. So obviously let's start packing this away. So the Nemo pillow is a little bit of an art form to get it packed away. It comes with its own internal stuff sack. So that sits behind it. So you then got to fold it up and down, and then kind of fold the stuff the sack around it. The more you do it, the easier it gets, but it's always a little bit fiddly. So you can see that even though it's supposed to be a little bit bulky for a pillow, and certainly some air pillows are much smaller than this, it's not too bad, certainly given the comfort of it. The sleeping bag comes with a decent sized stuff sack, so you should be able to get it back in without too many problems. So once it's back in its stuff sack, you can then use the compression straps to pack it down as small as you can. So there we go. Not the smallest sleeping bag in the world, but not the biggest either. Certainly for the size of the bag when it's out, and the fact it's synthetic and it's got a decent comfort rating of about 1 degrees, I think that packs down pretty small. I'm actually really impressed with this sleeping bag. So that leaves us with the air mat. So we can just whip that over. The air mat can sometimes be one of the most challenging things to put away. Trying to get all the air out, trying to get it back into the stuff sack is sometimes a challenge depending on the different air mats that you've got. I've got one air mat, my X-Bed one, that I don't even bother trying to get it back into the bag on an overnight camp. I just whack it back in the backpack as is, and then I do it at home and try and get it back into the stuff sack because the stuff sack is extremely small. But I think with this air mat, the stuff sack is okay, so you can get it packed away when you're out. This mat actually comes with 2 elasticated bands, which is quite good. So it should go back into its bag now okay, even though I didn't spend too much time folding it up neatly. Yep, it's gone back in absolutely fine, so that's really good. I've not been on a wild camp last night. I've just come out this morning to do this, just to make a couple of videos. So you can kind of see the effort that goes into an overnight wild camp in terms of walking somewhere, pitching the tent, getting out all your gear, having a night, and then the next morning obviously waking up, packing it all down, getting it all back into your bag and then going home. So you appreciate that effort even more when you've literally done it just to show it on a little video and then pack it all the way and go home. And because there's so much moisture in the air today, I'm going to have to go home and unpack it all again to air it all out, because the moisture, they're kind of drifting across the hillside. I noticed the sleeping bag's getting a little bit damp, and all the other gear as well. So yeah, a huge amount of effort involved. So if you do appreciate this kind of effort going into a video and coming up to a hill and doing this rather than my back garden and stuff, then do me a huge favour, drop the video a like and subscribe to the channel, especially if you want to see this used in anger, actually out in the mountains and stuff. I will link to my most recent video where I took the OEX Cougar 2 and this backpack and this gear up into a mountain for a camp. Absolutely beautiful time lapses and sunrise that morning, absolutely stunning cloud inversion as well. So do go check that out. I'll link to it up above. But yeah, back to the video. Let's start packing this into the bag in the way that I normally would. So I'm not going to worry about the dry bags because it's not raining today. Please don't start now. It is very cloudy. So I'll put those to one side and I'll just start packing the gear. So what I tend to do in my camps is most of my sleeping bags, I've got a bottom compartment, so I tend to put the sleeping gear into that as much as possible. So my down slippers, my sleep mat, and I'll chuck in here my gloves, my hat, the sleep pillow as well, and we'll be able to fit in the towel as well into there. Not going to stuff that too much. And then sleeping bag is the bulkiest item I've got with me, so that's going to go into the main section. And then all my thermal gear is going to stuff into there as well. My waterproof jacket into there. My down jacket as well. And then my MSR Solo cook set. She'll take the down jacket out and we'll stuff the big red bag of stuff into there instead. And put the down jacket on top where it's more accessible. So you can see there's still plenty of room in here for bits and pieces. So my water filter and then my Sea to Summit sleeping bag liner as well. And there's still room to put more stuff in there, so I'm not going to pack it tight. The down jacket will stick on top so it's easy to get at. And then we'll put the guy lines for the tent into the front pocket here. And that's where I'll also put the pegs and all the rest of it. So the stuff that's left here now is just stuff that will go on top of the bag. I'll put the dry bags up here. So everything's fitting in absolutely fine. What I'm making sure I'm not doing is I'm not sitting here now spending 30 minutes carefully packing everything away as small as it can be, carefully stuffing things into every little gap and stuff. There's still plenty of gaps within this bag. So what I'm trying to show is that actually the stuff fits in this bag comfortably. What I don't want to be doing on any kind of video is kind of packing a bag extremely carefully at home, spending hours rearranging things like it's Tetris to get things into the bag. And then when you're out in the wild camp and you've had an overnight, it's impossible to get stuff into the bag without spending hours and hours and hours of effort and time on a hill or a mountain somewhere trying to get it back into the bag. I would rather pack things messily on the way out and the way back and know there's plenty of space than spend hours and hours and hours trying to fit things into a bag extremely carefully. And then when you're cold, you know, it might be raining and stuff, you're trying to pack things away, you don't want to be spending ages trying to get things into your bag. So that's just the way I do it. And it just goes to show you can just kind of chuck stuff in quite randomly and it still fits in the bag. So now, like most camping things last, you'll be taking the tent down and then getting it onto the bag. For those of you who watched my X-Boil alcohol stove review, and you saw the kind of fire that happened in my porch, you might be wondering if I did burn through the ground sheet or not. Yes, I did. There is a really small hole burnt through there. So it could have been a lot worse, so not too tragic. So I need like a bit of tenacious tape or something to stick over that. But yeah, if you've not watched my X-Boil review, go and give it a watch. So I cooked some bacon, have a small fire in the tent, but as you can see, the damage is pretty minimal, thankfully. Now, in terms of packing the tent away, obviously today I'm just packing it away nice and quickly, taking it home. I'm going to obviously take it out when I'm home and just dry it off and stuff. If I was going on a longer camp and there was going to be rain or, again, heavy condensation during the mornings and stuff, I probably wouldn't take the original tent bag, or if I did, I'd have a separate dry bag for the inner and the outer. So I'd have 2 dry bags so that you can pack the inner and the outer separately, not worry about getting them wet. So that is definitely something worth bearing in mind if you are going to be out and about in your tents and stuff, is that you might want a better way of keeping the inner and outer separate. It's also worth bearing in mind the kind of bag that you've got. This one is a bag where you've got to try and get the tent in like this. It's a lot more awkward than other bags that have got a full length side zip on them, because you've got to make sure you've rolled the tent up enough to get it into the bag. So that's another reason sometimes to use dry bags and to kind of stuff tents into them, is that it can be a lot easier than trying to get them in lengthways like this. It's not a brilliantly designed bag, if I'm honest. A lot of the Van Gogh ones come with a side zip, so you can put them in like that, and they're often oversized ones, so you can scrunch them up and then tighten them. It's much easier than this kind of stuff. So again, if I was up a mountain now and it was absolutely chucking down with rain, every little detail like that really matters, because, you know, your bag is over here, presumably getting rained on at the same time, you know, and you're getting rained on. It's just generally a miserable experience, and that's when it can start getting frustrating if you're trying to roll a tent up carefully in the soaking rain, trying to get it back into a bag like this. So yeah, do bear that in mind. So for this setup, I'm having the tent on the outside of the bag. Now, some people prefer to put tents in the bag, which you certainly can do, and that's where dry bags and stuff sacks become even more crucial. If you split the tent into 2 parts and put the poles in a side pocket, then you can actually probably get the tent quite comfortably inside your bag. So that's definitely something worth considering. But don't be afraid to put them back in their original bags and put them on the outside of your bag. That's what these kind of straps are for, and can make it a lot easier if you're on a budget and you've got budget type gear inside your bag. You know, load your bag up with that and put things like this on the outside. That's absolutely not a problem at all. So we're almost done now. Just got the tent pegs, which I'll put into here. So again, I'm doing that so that I know where they are. When I come to pitch a tent, I can just grab them from the front, so I can take the tent off, the pegs, the guy lines out, and I'm not having to go inside the bag and, you know, dig around for them and stuff. So the only other thing I've got to pack is my drink bottle. So that'll happily go down the side, either one of these pockets. Chuck it in there for now. And then I've got a little pocket blanket, which I'm currently on, which we'll just chuck into the top. And you can see, you know, it's not a tightly packed bag. There is plenty of space to put other bits and pieces if you needed to. So the only thing I've not packed is food. So I think there's enough space left in the bag for food. And in terms of food, if you're intending to eat most of the stuff you're carrying, obviously you can put snacks in the hip belt pockets, things like that. But if you intend to eat most of it, you don't have to stress too much about taking it out, because you know on the walk back you can have extra space because you've consumed the food that you've got. Just bear in mind that's not really the case if you've put your food into Tupperware and stuff, because it's obviously, whether the Tupperware is full or empty, it's still going to take up the same amount of space. But there are very generous top straps on this bag, so you could happily put a big bag of food strapped to the top, dry bags, other things like that. You know, there are plenty of spaces to hang things, put things, and all sorts of things on this bag. If you want a more detailed look at this bag, then do look at my overview review video of it, where I just talk about how I've found the bag over this past year of using it. And again, I'll show you in more detail about that kind of stuff you can fit into it and all the rest of it. So yeah, there we are. That's what I fit into my budget backpack for a 3-season camping experience. And what I will say is quite a luxurious 3-season camping experience as well, because big, proper 2-person tent, big comfy sleeping bag, big sleep mat, all the rest of it. So I do think that even on a budget, you can expect to get all that kind of gear into your bag quite comfortably and have a fairly comfortable hike, knowing that when you want to pack it away, you're not going to be fighting to get it back in the bag. You can just pack things away quite casually and it's all going to fit. So hope you've enjoyed the video, hope you got something from it. If you want to see more of my wild camping and stuff, please do check out my other videos. I do use a lot of budget gear. I've got camps that are less than £35, which is tent, backpack, sleeping bag, sleep mat, sleep pillow. Yeah, so if you've made it this far, massive thanks for watching. Hope you appreciate the effort that I put into getting this stuff out into the hill today to do this. And yeah, if you're not subscribed, please think about doing so. Just tap the button, that's all I need to help you support, to help me support the channel. And yeah, hit the notification bell and I'll be sure to see you in the next one. Thanks for watching.